Alrighty, folks, my name is Austin Nelson, and today we're going to be talking about ethical violations and board discipline and how that relates to counselor impairment and counselor performance and stuff like that. So, I'm from the state of Virginia, so most of my work will be done in regards to their information. What are the most common reasons for board discipline of a counselor, and what is your personal reaction to these stories? Well, the most common was dual relationships of some kind. For example, a lot of that was sexual in nature, either sexting or physical, actual sex. And then also, some guy tried to ask one of his clients to be his drug dealer. That's a dual relationship, which is just very, I don't know, it's odd. Because as I'm thinking about becoming a counselor, I kind of idealize what counselors are, and to think that somebody would be kind of silly enough, because a lot of these mistakes were really quite avoidable. Not to minimize counseling impairment or anything like that, but like, why would you text your client who's in therapy for drug-related issues about supplying you drugs or giving you drug money? I don't know. Seems a bit silly to me. So yeah, dual relationships, both sexually and a second nature. What are some themes that you see when you look at the common areas for board discipline? Common themes. Well, I think that's very similar to the first prompt. It's just, like I said, a lot of it's avoidable. A lot of it's from dual relationships. Like one woman, this is totally on her. She was doing a telehealth conference with a client, and then in the session, accidentally texted the client, thinking she was texting a friend about the client. She said, like, wow, this person's in rough shape, or something like that, and then sent it to the client. That's not necessarily a dual relationship, but that's pretty avoidable. She was one of the more recent cases and discussed the following points. What the behavior was led to the discipline? Well, I'll kind of talk about the craziest one that was available on the website. It was a man named John Gingras and his client. They didn't get the client's name, obviously, and they developed a emotional and sexual relationship. He came out one day over text and was told her he loved her, and she reciprocated that love, or that quote-unquote feeling of love, and they exchanged thousands of inappropriate texts, whether it be images or video calls, and they even met in person, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think they met in person, and it was just a long-term affair that really had a negative effect on his career, obviously, but a negative effect on her life. Identify and share the ACA Code of Ethics that was violated. ACA Code of Ethics 1 or 1A1, whatever it is. Do no harm. Don't harm your clients. Clearly he did harm to her, and she, after the affair was over, she came to realize that it really did cause her a lot of harm, and she felt greatly manipulated. And the state code that was violated, well, later on in the state code it talks about reasons for suspension and impairment, that kind of stuff. And one of the first ones written is dual relationships, whether it be sexual or dual relationships of any kind. Don't do it. It'll get you in trouble. What was the outcome of the board discipline? It was kind of funny. The guy was pretty defiant about it. He actually, because they have in the findings some quotes of his. He was pretty adamant that he loved her, and the rules and regulations of the counseling career were holding him back from finding fulfillment. And he said that since he was suspended indefinitely, he said that didn't matter because I'm not coming back. I'm going to write a book on my experiences and how it was helpful for me, helpful for the client, and that's what he wanted to do. What does the ACA Code of Ethics in your state say about counselor impairment? It doesn't say a whole lot about counselor impairment specifically, but it talks about the importance of well-being and how you need to be in a good place to help your clients. And this actually brings me to my citation for the week for a book in one of my other classes, Introduction to Counseling. And this chapter was about counselor impairment. And on page 285, it gives basically half the page talks about how in life, negative circumstances will come. And it's important that counselors have a healthy way to handle these negative circumstances so it doesn't become an impairment and then in turn lead to dual relationships. Because a lot of the themes I noticed with the clients and the client reporting the counselor for violating something, they had other things in their life going on they weren't handling right that became an impairment that led to a negative action, drugs, sex, anything like that, which led to their suspension. So my question for me at the end of this would be, are there counselor accountability groups? So when you're having a fight with your wife or you're struggling with physical ailments or whatever, that you can go talk to other peers and they can help you not form dual relationships with clients and meet needs in an inappropriate way? I don't know. I went over time, so gotta be quick, but those are some of my thoughts for this week.